Welcome to BBC London on Friday the 21st of August. This is what's on the programme. A plea to the government to eradicate violence against women and girls. It comes from a London mother whose two daughters were murdered.
I would say we need to do things differently. This piecemeal approach to the safety of women and girls has to stop.
Well, the former priest wants action taken before others suffer what her family has suffered. Also on the programme, London's air ambulance have had the busiest summer in their history, meaning they've saved even more lives after they worked double shifts.
After so little rain, water levels in our canals and rivers are now at risk. I'll be finding out what's being done to keep the boats moving.
That's the sound of the Underground, the composer who's taken inspiration from London's tube network. Good evening. A London mother whose two daughters were murdered 6 years ago in Wembley says she's been left angry and frustrated that another family is going to have to, in her words, suffer what we suffered. Retired priest Mina Smallman has been speaking after last week's conviction of Simon Levy. Last year, he murdered two women in North and South London and raped a third. He'll never be freed from prison. But Miss Smallman, who says she was left spiralling after learning about police and other failings, wants the government to take action to improve safety. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent, Sonia Jessup.
Simon Levy, a convicted sex offender left free to violently rape one woman and to murder Carmenza Valencia Trujillo and Cheryl Wilkins. For Mina Smallman, the case has left her furious at failings across the criminal justice system.
When I read into the case, my heart sank because there were echoes of things that we were promised wouldn't happen anymore. And I actually sent a text to Sir Mark Rowley and I said, how many times are you going to stand outside Scotland Yard and say, I'm sorry?
Mina's own daughters, Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, were murdered by a teenager 6 years ago. Two Met police officers were jailed for taking and sharing photos of their bodies. She says she has now spoken to the Met Commissioner about the Levy case and he apologised. But she's angry the new Prime Minister has been silent on it and wants to meet with him.
It wasn't just the Met that let these family down. It was the CPS, it was the court system, it was the prison system, it was everyone. Anyone and everyone that has a duty to ensure that these people don't slip through the net.
What would your message be to Andy Burnham?
I would say we need to do things differently. This piecemeal approach to the safety of women and girls has to stop. And there has to be a working together.
She's worried about government plans to release some offenders early to tackle the crisis in prison spaces and the pressure on police to monitor them. It comes 2 years after the government promised to halve violence against women in a decade.
Do you think that's doable?
I don't know. I'm not a fan of statistics. You know, they can be distorted. Of course, I want it halved. I want it to be eradicated completely. But statistics mean nothing if it doesn't come with, we've caught your attacker and he's never coming near you again.
She also calls for more to be done to tackle the root causes of misogyny.
Our young men and teenage boys are being radicalised. They're being given this lie about femininity, what it is to be female, what it is to be a real man. Because of the social media, they are connecting with people all over the world who are angry and frustrated, and they're being manipulated by people who are dangerous. I see them as terrorists.
In a statement, a government spokesperson said the Levy case was horrifying.
It is right that the Independent Office for Police Conduct is investigating and the organisations involved are conducting internal reviews. Any failures must be identified and never repeated.
And on changes to prison sentences,
we are fast-tracking a plan to keep more of the most dangerous offenders behind bars.
I want things to change and I'm sick of being measured. Something needs to change and it needs to change now.
Her campaign continues, she says, so no other family will suffer as her own has. Sonia Jessup, BBC London.
Well, this is your news for London and the home county. Still to come tonight. The drought has taken its toll on London's waterways, but the Canal and Rivers Trust say they've taken steps to make sure it's not as bad as it could have been. Well, let's take a brief look at some other stories making the headlines today. 2 men and a teenage boy have admitted involvement in an arson attack targeting the UK offices of Persian news channel Iran International in Park Royal in April. An ignited container was thrown towards the building, but no one was injured. The men have been remanded into custody. The youth is remanded into local authority care. 3 men have admitted plotting to burgle a South London jewellery shop by tunnelling in from a massage parlour next door. Body-worn footage shows police officers arriving at the scene on Mitcham Road in Tooting. 2 of the men were arrested nearby, another was arrested at Stansted Airport. Hanningfield Reservoir in Essex is now only around half full after the extreme hot and dry weather this summer. A few months ago it was at over 80% capacity. It's now at around 60. Water bosses say they don't expect significant rainfall until October. Now, London's life-saving air ambulance has recorded its busiest summer ever. The team has worked double shifts to respond to hundreds of call-outs over the past 2 months. Our political editor, Carl Mercer, went to the air ambulance helipad and down to ground level to find out more.
Richard, can you hear us all right?
I'll get some monitors.
It's not responsive at the moment, Jason. Okay. Richard, can you hear us?
When they're not in the air or treating real patients, this is part of what London's air ambulance crews get up to. Training and practicing is very much part of every shift.
Ready for checks?
Okay, there's your checklist.
Thank you very much. So all oxygen cylinders over half full.
Check. And there's shifts that are getting busier. This summer has been the busiest ever for the air ambulance since it first started back in 1989. The figures tell their own story. Over May, June and July this summer, the service saw 643 patients. That's compared to 566 in 2024 and 521 back in 2022. They're now averaging 7 patients a day. This summer, with a new, more reliable helicopter, they've been running double shifts over the longer days.
Certainly as crews, we tend to think that a hot day will lead to us being busier. Going back to what we're saying about our availability, like we've really tried as a charity to make sure that we are maximising those hours by providing 2 pilot teams so that we can really extend what we can do, whereas previously in other summers we might have been working on a single pilot operation.
Summer can also present its own challenges for landing, with parks and open spaces busier than normal. Just a couple of weeks ago, crews put down in Trafalgar Square.
There are very few places within the real centre of London that we can get to reliably, and places like Trafalgar Square and Parliament Square do provide us an opportunity, and that's where it's just really important that that people are mindful of what's happening, and if they can see that we're coming, just trying to get right out of the way of where we're looking to land, which will usually be right in the middle of that open space.
Crews are also involved in a pilot with the ambulance service, where they'll go to a small number of severe cardiac arrest cases, trialling a treatment called ECMO.
ECMO is a process where we would put in large pipes that we call cannulae to take blood out of the patient's body, run it through a pump and provide oxygen to that blood and then return it to them. So essentially what that's doing is taking someone who's got a really sick heart that's not currently effectively beating and taking over that function for them in order to get them towards a therapy that could make everything better. So for example, opening up the coronary arteries.
A busy summer then of treating and learning. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
Yeah, an amazing team. Now, this long, hot summer has brought with it drought conditions, which has taken its toll on nature, parks, gardens and, of course, rivers. But the Canal and Rivers Trust says it's been taking action to make sure the impact of the water shortage isn't worse than it could have been. Layla Hayes has been finding out what they've been doing to save water.
London is in drought. And that means at Hanwell Locks, they're now having to close the locks overnight to maintain water levels. This stretch of the Grand Union Canal was opened back in 1794. But this year's drought means they're having to do everything they can to now preserve water. How difficult has this year been?
I think it's, as I suspect most people are saying, unprecedented. It's been one of the driest summers we've ever seen, and of course there's been virtually no rain. So the main thing we've done recently, because this drought is extending for so long, is we've made the decision we've had to lock this flight of locks overnight. So we'll stop boats moving up and down the canal.
Of course, the boats are still allowed to come through during the day, but for boaters like Paul, the drought has made things much more challenging.
It's kind of the new normal, really. You have to get used to it in the summer months. It needs careful management by both the boaters and the people looking after the canals. So if we work together, we can help keep it as good as it can be.
The Mayor says the effect of the drought on London's waterways is yet another example of the climate emergency. It means those tasked with protecting our canals have had to adapt.
So what we have done in London is we have closed the Hertford Union Canal, which is a non-critical shortcut, which is near Victoria Park. So what we have done now, we have closed that down so that it means that the water that is fed from West London, from the Hanwell Flight area and beyond, goes into central London. So we're keeping the Regent's Canal open for as long as possible for our boats to move and to keep afloat.
As you can see, that's at minus 100 on the end there. This would then trigger a low water alarm.
In Hanwell, they're now using an app to monitor water levels, but are also keeping a close eye on the weather.
Are you desperate for rain?
Yes, deeply. We get hopeful whenever it starts to speckle slightly, but it generally never arrives.
The locks have been here for more than 200 years. All they need now is more water to fill them. Layla Hayes, BBC London.
3 Conservative council leaders in London have written to the Prime Minister accusing the government of devolving blame for rises in council tax. Well, the leaders of Westminster, Wandsworth and Kensington and Chelsea councils say they're being forced to raise council tax or cut services in order to plug the funding gap. Our political correspondent is Susanna Mendonça. Susanna, what's this all about?
Well, it's basically a bit of a row between these Conservative councils and the Labour government over who the public should blame when there are steep council tax increases, which look almost inevitable now. And just for context, what's happened in terms of local government funding is that the government changed the way that it divides up the cash. And so some inner London boroughs in particular are going to see reductions in their funding in future years. That money is going to be diverted to other parts of the country. Some of the outer London boroughs will actually do better. The government says this is about fixing an outdated funding system, making sure the funding goes to where it's most needed. But these inner London boroughs are very concerned about this. The other thing that happened is that the government last year said that 6 councils in London and the South East would be able to raise council tax by above the cap, which is currently 5%. Now, these councils, which are run by the Conservatives won back 2 of them actually in the local elections earlier on this year, they traditionally would like to keep council tax low. But what they're saying is that they feel as though they're being backed into a corner by the government to raise council tax. And some of the figures that we've heard touted about are potentially quite astonishing, actually, in terms of the scale. I think in the end, the council tax probably won't rise as high as some of what we've heard, but certainly it's a concern for them. I spoke to Westminster City Council's Cabinet Member for Finance earlier on today.
It's that the Labour government recognises that their cuts to our funding are so large that the only way of plugging that gap is probably through a combination of savings and council tax rises. Now, in the case of Westminster, speaking for Westminster alone at the moment, the government assumed council tax increases of 75 to 100%. Now, I know that the figure of 160% has been floated, and Wandsworth has been particularly affected by the Labour government's decision to cut funding.
Susanna, what a lot of people are going to be thinking, myself included, is what impact is this going to have on local services?
I think it's almost certain that we'll see cuts to services. I mean, we've seen that year on year, to be honest, but in terms of these particular boroughs, they're going to have to look at making cuts. I was speaking to the leader of Kensington Council earlier on today, and she was telling me that things like the frequency of bin collections, library, leisure services, those are the types of areas she's looking at. They're currently consulting residents to kind of see, I suppose, where people, nobody really wants to see cuts, but which areas are kind of more important to people and which aren't. Statutory duties are things that councils have to do. So, for example, caring for vulnerable adults and children, providing temporary accommodation for homeless families. Those are the things that councils have to provide. So it's everything else that potentially is on the table. And of course, all of this comes in the week when London councils told me that the budget gap across the board is £5.2 billion over 4 years for all the London boroughs. So it's a very difficult picture for all the London boroughs in terms of finances. And for these boroughs in particular, they're seeing a massive decrease in how much funding they were having previously, and finding ways to deal with that.
OK, Susanna Mendoza, we'll watch closely what's going on. I know you're completely across it. Thanks very much for that. Well, the time now is 6:48. Let's have a look at what's still to come on the programme.
Coming up, Victoria Park is ready for one of London's biggest festivals. We'll be looking at the stars, the crowds and the concerns over the dry conditions.
All right, football, and Arsenal begin the Premier League season tonight at 8 o'clock. Other matches are being played tomorrow, and there's a big London derby in the Championship too. Football guru Mr. Phil Parry has it all.
The Premier League is back, and BBC Radio London is right across the opening weekend. We're live with the programme from the GTEC as Brentford prepare to take on Tottenham Hotspur, and our commentary game at 3 o'clock comes from the Hill Dickinson, Everton against the Europa Conference League champions Crystal Palace. We start early on DAB digital radio though, and at 12:30 in the Championship, Millwall take on Norwich City. That's followed at 3 on DAB with a big London derby. West Ham United expected to give out more debuts as they take on Charlton Athletic. We'll have updates and reaction from all the other games involving London sides. It's the new season which starts here with Total Sport on BBC Radio London.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Now, this year's All Points East Festival, music and entertainment, has opened in Victoria Park. It prides itself on promoting London acts, and to make it a nicer experience, organisers say they've introduced what they're saying is additional ground protection and dust mitigation measures following problems they had last year when there were actually visible dust clouds. Well, Alpa Patel is being there for us.
Well, if you've walked through Victoria Park over the last few days, you might have noticed it's looking a bit different. All Points East kicks off today, and it's bringing some of the biggest names in music to East London, including KTB and Lord. I've been taking a look around.
KTB setting the tone for this year's All Points East Festival. Fans thrilled to see one of London's best-loved artists performing in her home city, as well as other big names as well.
Georgia Smith and KTB.
What do you like about those two acts?
I think, well, KTB's an icon. She's been singing for such a long time, and Georgia Smith again, she's such an amazing singer.
We've been waiting all summer for this. It's been a countdown to this event, and we're just so happy to be here.
Especially O'Deal and Georgia Smith as well. So yeah, those are and Thames as well. There's quite a lot of artists actually that I want to see.
Well, I've just completed my A-levels, so I really wanted a treat after A-levels, and I think this was the one.
Everyone's smiling, the vibes are great, it looks like fall, but it's not fall, feels like fall. Big fan of O'Deal.
Two people said, I'm here for O'Deal.
Oh, that warms my heart. I can't wait to go out there.
They've come here especially for...
That's beautiful, I can't wait.
And in the journey, your career, how are you feeling about this moment? And all the work you've put in?
It's definitely a checkpoint. I remember coming here a couple of years ago and literally putting on a light jog for Victoria Monet.
and like to be on stage this year with great artists, like it just means a lot. Do you know what I mean? Once again, in the summer during London, it feels great. I'm grateful. Yeah.
Last year, fans shared pictures showing dust clouds at the site, with some covering their mouths with masks and scarves.
Well, this year, again, it's very, very hot and there's been very little rainfall, which means that the ground is very, very dry. So, organisers have put down extra flooring to help protect the ground and reduce that dust.
Organisers said in a statement, at Victoria Park, AEG Presents has carried out extensive restoration and reseeding works since late summer 2025 to create a more resilient environment. Across the capital, festivals in public parks are facing opposition. But supporters say they raise millions. Organisers of All Points East and Lido say they deliver £70 million to London. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, with the gates open for the next 10 days, Victoria Park is once again at the centre of one of the capital's biggest summer events. Alpa Patel, BBC London.
Yeah, this music has been inspired, believe it or not, by the London Underground. Unsurprisingly, maybe, it took a London composer to create it, and he did it in a very unusual way. It's not the first time Matthew Wilcock has used transport to make music. I'll let him tell you about it.
My name is Matthew Wilcock and I'm an artist and composer. Music from the London Underground basically takes all of the arrival data from the transport network, and every time a train arrives at a station, a note is triggered. There are 12 lines in total, including the Elizabeth line. And basically I assign a note to each line using the E-flat pentatonic. And then I also add a D-flat and an E in there just for a little bit of flavour. So for example, this is just the district line. And then the Elizabeth line. What's kind of interesting though is when multiple trains arrive on the same line, like a spread chord is created. How did I come up with this idea? So it's based on a broader series that I've been doing that's called Cycles, where I take rhythms, data and patterns from the real world and translate them into music. One of the most popular motorway cycles I've done, which is motorway cycle 11, the junction of the M25 and the M11. The way that works, there's 8 lanes and I assign a note or a chord within a scale, usually diatonically, to each of the lanes basically. And as a car crosses the pink line, it basically triggers that note. Some people are like, why is the pink line there? Which is an interesting one, always. It's a little bit like a magic trick where I'm trying to extract music out of something that you wouldn't necessarily think you could extract. Is that you're taking something that's quite stressful and quite ugly in the real world and transforming it into something a bit more beautiful, which is why I think the idea started to resonate. Yeah, we had this really interesting opportunity to be involved with designing the sound for the London urban bus sound, the AVAS sound, so basically the sound that the electric bus has to make legally. If we have to put a sound out into the city, why shouldn't it be a more beautiful sound, or at least aspire to be something a bit more beautiful? And yeah, that's then led us on a long journey to creating the sound of the London bus. I don't think I've finished with the underground. This is one snapshot at a random time of day. I'm kind of interested to see what rush hour sounds like, or different times of the day.
What an extraordinary way to make music. Our thanks to Matthew Wilcock for speaking to us. Now let's get the weather forecast with Jennifer. And Jennifer, this week, and certainly the last few days, it's been more comfortable in the evenings and certainly at night. Is that going to continue into the weekend?
It is, Assad, and actually tonight it might even feel a little bit chilly for some of us. A very good evening to you. We've got a fairly decent weekend of weather in store. Today we've seen a little bit of cloud, some sunshine as well. A couple of pictures to show you. This was the Barbican earlier on, captured by Bella, and I love this shot in the City of London. Quite an arty shot there by Isle Explorer. Now, over the course of the weekend, it is going to be decent if you've got outdoor plans, dry and sunny, and it is going to be feeling quite fresh in the mornings. We've got high pressure which is building in as we head through the next couple of days, squeezing away any showers, and we have had a few showers around this afternoon. They're continuing for a little while as we head into this evening, but then overnight we have clear spells developing, and underneath those clear skies the temperature will be dropping away into single figures in a few spots, 8 or 9 degrees, and I dare say that might feel quite fresh if you're out and about first thing tomorrow morning. Quite a nice feeling for some, I'm sure. Plenty of sunshine though during the morning on Saturday. By the afternoon, a little bit more cloud developing, but it will stay dry, and the temperature similar to today, 20 to 22 degrees with just a light northerly breeze. Now here's Saturday night, not much happening really. We have a little bit of cloud coming and going, some clear spells once again, maybe just a small chance of a shower, and those overnight temperatures again down to 7 degrees in a few spots. So it's starting to change a little bit as we head through the weekend. Sunday morning then, fresh once again. Plenty of sunshine as we head through the morning. A little bit of cloud into the afternoon. But again, if you've got any outdoor plans on Sunday, it's looking like a lovely day actually. 23 to 25 degrees, feeling pleasantly warm in the sunshine. Let's have a look at how things look further ahead then, and you can see that those temperatures are hovering around the mid-20s as we head through the week, getting a little bit warmer, but by the end of the week we are keeping an eye out because we could have some further wet weather in the forecast, potentially some thunderstorms, but that's a long way off. For the weekend at least, it's looking dry and fine. Assad.
Thank you. We've not seen single figures for a long time, like we will in the morning. Thanks very much, Jennifer. Well, time now for a recap of some of the main news in the headlines today. The Met Office says next year could be the hottest on record as El Nino climate phenomenon develops in the Pacific, pushing up global temperatures. Prince Harry and 6 other high-profile figures have been ordered to pay an initial £9.5 million after losing a privacy case against Daily Mail's publisher. London's air ambulance has had its busiest summer in more than 30 years, treating hundreds of patients. The charity says a better helicopter and the team working double shifts have helped it respond to more cases. Well, that's it. I'm back at 10:30 with our late news tonight on BBC One. Hope you can join me then. On behalf of the BBC London Early Evening News team, bye-bye.